The Ford Bronco is undoubtedly among our favorite SUVs. Extremely stylish and rugged exterior, fantastic off-road performance, and a truckload of true American bravado. What's not to like? Well, quite a lot, as despite being such a great vehicle on paper, the Ford Bronco is riddled with issues. So let's take a deep dive and check out what's wrong with one of America's most beloved SUVs, as we take a look at 6 problems with the Ford Bronco you must know. Number 6. The 2.7 EcoBoost engine is known to cause problems. One of the best known issues with the Ford Bronco is going to be the constant complaints owners have about their engines, specifically the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 engine. The V6 is well known for valve train issues. You see, some owners have reported experiencing premature camshaft lobe wear combined with faulty lifters and irregular valve timing. This results in a drastic decrease in engine performance and fuel economy, while also leading to constant engine misfires that can then severely damage the camshaft and lead to a total loss of power. In addition, the irregular valve timing aids the loss of power even more and continues to decrease the fuel economy of the engine. All of these issues have been attributed to the bad quality of the materials used, as well as engine inspections not being thorough enough. That said, these issues have been reported to a minimal number of Broncos, and as far as we know, the new Broncos do not suffer from this issue. That said, it leaves a bitter taste knowing that Ford didn't take that extra step to ensure that the mighty Bronco didn't get hampered so drastically. Number 5. Subpar interior quality. Another problem with the Ford Bronco is by far its interior quality. While not as bad as the Jeep Wrangler, the Ford Bronco is still very much underwhelming in this regard. Now, we don't expect the Bronco, which is primarily an off-road vehicle, to have a lavishly well-built leather-trimmed interior. That wouldn't be realistic. However, when compared with the likes of the Toyota 4Runner and the Toyota Land Cruiser, both of which are just as capable off-road, you'd be surprised at how incredibly poorly built this vehicle is. Starting with the interior materials, there are a lot of cheap hard plastics. A lot. This is especially the case for the lower end models, which have interiors that are practically made entirely of cheap plastic. Now, higher trim levels offer a better interior quality with a soft dashboard and even some leather padding here and there. However, this all looks like child's play compared to the Land Cruiser, which has a very premium interior. Additionally, the interior panel fitting isn't particularly good either. There are a lot of big panel gaps and a lot of issues with squeaks and rattles, which do bring the overall interior experience. That said, we still have to remember that this is, after all, a no-nonsense off-roader, and a few squeaks here and there aren't going to drive us away from it. They might drive us nuts when driving around though. That said, the next problem will make us question if the Bronco is even worth it. Number 4. Transmission issues. The Ford Bronco has a very interesting manual gearbox. The 7-speed manual is generally considered to be one of the biggest revolutions in the world of manual gearboxes, as it offers crawler gear, which allows the Bronco to move very slowly and deliberately, giving you much more control off-road. So with all that in mind, we're very sorry to tell you that the gearbox, as interesting as it sounds, is much more fragile than one would expect. You see, the gearbox has been well known to experience rotational scraping in ambient temperatures that are below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which could lead to premature issues with the transmission. That said, the automatic transmission is even worse in this regard because it experienced even more issues, some of which required a full-on recall. First of all is the transmission park system, which was known to be broken from the get-go during assembly, entirely preventing the vehicle from being set in park, which could lead to it rolling away. Now sure, this is a very rare issue. However, it is something that makes us think, what else is wrong with this vehicle? And oh boy, quite a bit more. Number 3. Hard tops are known to leak. Another problem with the Bronco is its hardtop roof. You see, one of the Bronco's key trump cards has been its hardtop. The logic behind it is that you can remove it whenever you want and experience the sun and wind whenever you want, and then put it back on when the rain starts falling to protect you from it. Except that it doesn't. Yeah, that's right. The hardtop has a massive leaking issue that has oftentimes even been reported to happen not a few weeks after it came out of the factory. Owners have been complaining that despite not even touching the roof panels, they would leak on all sides, making the vehicle very nauseating to drive. And honestly, can you even imagine buying a new vehicle dropping north of 50 grand on it only for it to leak the first time you take it out for a drive? The worst part about this is the fact that Ford dealers have been known to blow off owners by telling them that nothing is wrong with their car. Honestly, quite an insolent thing to do, but that's not even the start of it. Number 2. Various recalls in the past few years. Apart from having quite a bit of quality-related issues with the interior and the exterior, as we saw previously, the Ford Bronco has also had its fair share of quality control problems that led to numerous recalls. Most recently, there's been a problem with the four-door Bronco. Namely, some units have had an issue with the child lock mechanism, as it was known to fail altogether, leading to the possibility of opening the door from the inside. This is not something you'd want to see happen if you have little kids or grandkids, would you? In addition, the rear glass panels on the hardtop variation of the four-door Bronco fell off due to improper fitment, which resulted in yet another recall earlier this year. In addition, the critical fasteners of the seatbelts have also been known to fail, which is a terrible safety hazard. If you were to have an accident, the seatbelts wouldn't hold you, leading to possible lethal outcomes. There were also recalls concerning the camera system, the steering components, wheel lug nuts, and many more. However, they are all less important than the ones we mentioned. However, the Bronco's biggest problem isn't that easy to fix because it's thoroughly fundamental. Number 1. The vehicle just isn't a good all-rounder. We love the Bronco, we truly do. However, saying that it's a good all-around vehicle would just be deceitful. The Ford Bronco is, by all accounts, a very mediocre vehicle, except for the off-roading. You see, the Ford Bronco, due to its tall ride height, as well as its off-road ready suspension, is very uncomfortable on the road. It is a tad harder than it needs to be. Its body roll is ever present, and the vehicle is borderline unpleasant to drive. Additionally, the interior, as we've already mentioned, is very subpar. The seats, especially on the lower end models, aren't particularly comfortable or engaging, and the technology used is very iffy at best. Sure, the 12-inch display is neat and all, however, not all Broncos come with it. Instead, the standard is the 8-inch one, which is underwhelming to use. And for $41,000, which is its base price, it should have been much better. Just look at the Land Cruiser and how fantastic it is on the inside. It has much softer and much more supportive seats, the infotainment is better, and the software is better. Everything about it kicks the Bronco's ass. The reliability is also on Toyota's side, with a track record that is light years ahead of Ford, especially the Bronco, which, as we've already established, isn't particularly dependable due to Ford's constant mishaps. Even though the Bronco is a fantastic off-roader, it isn't all that better than the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now sure, the Land Cruiser is much more expensive, but the 4Runner offers 90% of the off-road ability of the Ford Bronco at a lower price, all while providing a better interior and much better ride quality while retaining incredible reliability. Finally, the Bronco isn't that practical. Its cargo area is much smaller than the competition, and interior space has very little to offer to compensate for that. Again, it's completely outmatched by its direct rivals. That said, we still adore the Bronco, even with its flaws, as no SUV on the market, save for the Jeep Wrangler. Honestly, the Bronco isn't a vehicle you buy with your head, you buy it with your heart.